If you already have the Itel S23, then you probably want to know how it compares with the S23 Plus. Both phones are the latest from the Itel company, and along with the Itel P55 5G, are the best that we have seen from Itel so far. This is the S23 Plus, and this is the regular S23. In this video, we will get to know all their features and see what really makes the S23 Plus better. During the making of this review video, I made a post here on YouTube asking you guys to suggest what you want me to mention in this review video. I thank all of you for your fine comments. Prince said, "Hi, good day. I have two questions. Does the Itel S23 Plus share the same common things with the Itel S23? And the Itel S23 Plus, does the phone feel like Itel has come up, or their phones are still bad like other previous phones? I would like to know more about the S23 Plus. Thanks." I appreciate your comment, Prince. Let's find out the answers. Starting with their price, the regular S23 is 102,000 naira, while the S23 Plus is 150,000 naira. That gives us a 48,000 naira price gap. These prices have changed so much in the past 2 weeks alone, and we can expect to see further changes in the future. If someone has 102,000 naira, just enough to buy the S23, why add 48,000 naira to buy the S23 Plus? I think every bit of the extra money is worth it. The S23 is amazing. We will find out soon. So here are what both phones have in common. The first is their battery capacity of 5,000 mAh. Even though their batteries might not drain at the same level, it should be enough to power both phones the whole day. This is good enough on the average. Next is their 50 megapixel main camera. The S23 and S23 Plus are the first Itel phones to be designed with a 50 megapixel sensor, and Itel deserves to be commended here. But the results from their camera quality test reveals a big difference. Both phones have the same camera sensor, but footages from their cameras are not the same. More on this later. Then in terms of their network capacity, both phones are 4G devices. So if you already have the S23, you get to enjoy the same internet speed as the S23 Plus. If you are downloading a file, watching video, or just browsing the internet, you get the same connection speed on both phones. Nothing is different about their internet connection. Memory space is yet another major similarity between them. On both phones, you get 8GB of RAM with support for RAM expansion of another 8GB. Many persons who use the Itel S23 agree in the comment section that the S23 does not lag. It's a good thing that Itel opted for 8GB of RAM on both phones and not 6GB or even 4GB RAM. Meantime, we can be sure that the S23 and the S23 Plus will run smoothly without freezing. Now, still on memory space, but a little away from this comparison, one question that I'm often asked is whether RAM expansion works. Yakub Abdulmalik says, "Yes, I actually want to know the effect of the virtual RAM. Does it really work? If so, is there any increase in the performance?" This is the same thing that Sentiment said. What about virtual RAM versus no virtual RAM? Does virtual RAM actually increase the performance of the phone? Some time ago, I reviewed the Infinix Smart 7 Plus with 3GB RAM, expandable by another 3GB through virtual memory. I bought this phone for someone, but before I gave the phone out, I made sure to activate the extra 3GB RAM. So what the phone had at that time was 6GB RAM. The last time I checked, the phone still lagged a lot. Go to my channel, find the video, check the comments, and you will notice many negative feedbacks from the Smart 7 Plus users. I also have a neighbor who bought the Redmi 12C 3GB RAM variant without the option of RAM expansion. That phone is by far faster than the Infinix Smart 7 Plus. Again, check the comments under the Redmi 12C video in my channel page and you will see many positive comments. I'm not in the position to say that memory fusion don't work by increasing the performance of phones, but from what we have seen so far, one can have reasons to doubt. I feel like it is the same thing as saying that a child is not intelligent enough. To help him, you decide to enroll him in a second school so that he can be attending 2 schools every day. I guess he will be more messed up. Some of the processors in these entry-level phones are like a dull-brained child who cannot handle large memory. Forcing them to handle more than their specified memory will not have much effect. Now, back to the similarity of the S23 and the S23 Plus. The charging port is still one tiny similarity between them. They have a Type-C charging port, which I think is cool. For example, the Itel P40 series comes with 2 phones, P40 and P40 Plus. While the P40 Plus has a Type-C charger, the normal P40 comes with a micro USB port. Luckily, the 2 phones in the S23 series have a Type-C charging port. Their last similarity is their display interface. The size of fonts, icon arrangement, and pre-installed apps on both phones are either the same or almost the same. This is also the case with other phones, like the Camon 20 and the Camon 20 Pro. They have the same display interface, but sometimes they have some different themes and customizations that kind of makes them appear different. Like when Infinix launched a Free Fire edition in a Hot series, they are sure to make the theme of the phone reflect the Free Fire game, making it different from other phones in that series. But virtually every Itel phone have the same display interface. So far, we've talked about 6 major similarities between the Itel S23 and the S23 Plus. Now, let's also consider 6 key differences between them. Keep in mind that some of the information I provide here are not readily available to me, so it's not like I go online, find those information and provide them here. I have to also to get both phones, operate them for a long time so that I can observe them and compare them and provide the information here. So if you love what I do, please support me by liking this video, subscribe to my channel and share the video as well. The link to my WhatsApp channel is in the description as well. You can join for free. There you get to know what I'm doing before I post them here on YouTube. If you also want to buy any of these phones, you can find the link in the description as well. The first obvious difference between them is their packaging. The S23 Plus and the P55 are the only phones that Itel has made with a different style of packaging. The S23 Plus in particular has a very great package inside out, unlike the S23. I think one contributing factor to why lots of people don't like Itel products is because of their packaging. Packaging does a lot in creating impression about the product inside. Right from the start, Itel has not really been good in packaging until now. The S23 has Itel's usual packaging design, which does not give any real unboxing experience. So you open the box, and aside from the phone that is packed in a separate part of the box, all the accessories are somehow packed together like an overloaded box. Okay, not exactly. My bad. Because the unboxing experience does not bring any real value to the overall performance of the phone, we'll just overlook it and move to the next difference, the design. This is yet another aspect of both phones that spares a big difference. They are about the same size and some of their cutouts are in the same position, but the S23 Plus has its SIM house at the bottom of the phone. This is so unusual of Itel. Their SIM houses is usually designed at the left corner of their phone. The S23 has its SIM house at the left corner. Also, S23 supports an external SD card, but the S23 doesn't. Looking at their back, a lot of people will prefer the S23 because I guess it has a better design. The S23 Plus is lighter, slicker, and more comfortable to hold, and it has very stable edges. Users of the S23 can take comfort knowing that their phone has a color changing back, at least for the white design. This is a feature that is lacking in the S23 Plus. But whatever, the design of the S23 Plus is by far better. Next is their camera. Regarding a post I made here on YouTube, a viewer with the name The Categorizer said, the camera difference because you said the S23 chipset can't handle a 50 megapixel and check the gaming performance. The same comments came from Baba Boy, sorry if I mispronounced the name. He says, definitely a camera and a gaming comparison. Well, first of all, sorry that I won't be doing gaming comparison in this review video because it is both time and data consuming. Installing games of over 5 gig on both phones just to play them in less than 20 seconds in a main review video just doesn't make sense. Last month alone, I bought 160 gig of data for 30,000 naira from MTN and it didn't last the entire month before it got exhausted. So I'm trying to, let's focus on the cameras. As I already mentioned, both phones have the same 50 megapixel sensor. That is what Itel claimed. But footages from the S23 Plus is far better. In some shots, you will immediately notice the difference, but sometimes you will have to zoom in to see the real difference. Pictures from the S23 camera look blurry with less details. The same goes for their front cameras, but it is understandable because the S23 Plus has a better front camera sensor. So when it comes to camera, the S23 Plus is not just better, it is by far better. One thing we should also remember is that two phones with the same camera sensors will usually not give the same image quality. At the end of the day, the processor and the camera software will have their own say in the quality of the image. Could this be the case with the Itel S23 and the S23 Plus? It is hard to say because if the processor and the camera software were different, it will mostly affect brightness, contrast, and sharpness level. The camera itself should still be able to produce the details in the image accurately. But from what we see here, the camera of the S23 Plus can bring out some details in the pictures that the S23 camera cannot spot. So in conclusion, the camera of the S23 Plus is just better. Mr. The Categorizer, I hope this answers your question. The fourth major difference is their display. The S23 Plus has an AMOLED display that is sharper than the IPS LCD of the S23. If you move your fingers across their screen, you can feel how smooth the S23 Plus feels. On the S23, you will feel a kind of friction that tends to freeze your finger. So when playing a game like eFootball, it will be more convenient using the S23 Plus since you will be swiping your finger across the screen often. S23 Plus has a better display resolution and extremely little bezels. The display also features fingerprint scanner and nice curves by the side. Finally, it features a dot notch for the front camera, while the S23 has a water drop notch. Both displays respond very fast with the same transition effects, but the S23 has 60 and 90 Hz refresh rate, while the S23 Plus only comes with 60 Hz. This is one good feature of the S23 that is absent on the S23 Plus. But in general, the display of the S23 Plus is far better. This is the 10 watt charger that came with the Itel S23. It has a 10 watt charging capacity. The Itel S23 Plus, as you already know, does not come with a charger in the box, but it has an 18 watt charging capacity. So I used an 18 watt charger to conduct the charging test. The owner of the charger has collected it, so I don't have it to show here. But let me show you the result of the test I conducted. Starting from 50% of battery charge on both phones, 30 minutes of charge on their batteries shows a huge difference, but not as expected. The S23 got to 70%, while the S23 Plus got to 68%. This is a difference of 2%, and the S23 Plus charged faster, despite that it's charged at 10 watt charging rate. Finally, their performance. The S23 has a Unisoc T606 processor that is not as strong as the T616 used on the S23 Plus. In addition, the S23 runs on Android 12, while the S23 Plus is built on Android 13. If we follow these statistics, it will be safe to conclude that the S23 Plus will be more stable. It will also be less likely to overheat, to drain battery, and to lag. As of now, both phones are respecting themselves by behaving nicely without lagging or overheating. But sometimes bad characters does not manifest immediately, so let's give them time to see if they will perform according to their specs. So that is it. In all of these differences that I have mentioned, the S23 Plus is better than the S23 except on the charging test. If you already have the Itel S23, you don't have to feel bad because you already have a charging brick that came along with the phone, unlike. Another advantage for S23 users is that they can still continue to enjoy great music with their earpiece while charging their phone, perhaps with a power bank. Even though this sounds very little, you may not understand how frustrated S23 users are because they lack this feature. For a full review of the Itel S23, that would be this video. This video will take you to the full review of the Itel S23 Plus. I will soon compare the Itel S23 Plus with Tecno Camon 20, Infinix Note 30 and Infinix Hot 30, so keep in expectation and see you soon.